Developers jump over the greenbelt. It's called leapfrog development. So in 2005, the greenbelt was made. Shortly afterwards, farmers would get together at the coffee shop and talk about who was the next millionaire, because they were being bought out by a land banking company with investors from the Far East and by other huge multinationals, 2 or 3 of them out of Calgary.
The reason that that's a concern is that drives the price of land up. And for anybody that wants to get into farming, new and young farmers would have a difficult time being able to afford to buy farmland and continue to use it as farmland.
Some of the best farmland in the entire province is in this area, and a lot of it's been land banked, a lot of it's been annexed, a lot of it has been labeled as suitable for development. And I do understand the pressure on individual farmers because we haven't supported our agribusiness. We haven't provided top-notch education for young farmers trying to make it. We haven't provided the land protection. And in fact, provincial and federal governments have done a lot of laissez-faire attitude around land banking.
All over, farmland is disappearing because of urban pressures and urban development, especially under the Place to Grow legislation, was to bring in like another, 6 million people or more by, was it 2030 or thereabouts? From what I see, what's happening around, say, Paris and Brantford, St. George, the development that is occurring is more of the same. Basically, it's sprawl. Because it's easy to build on farmland because it's clean, usually it's easy digging. That's a lot simpler for developers.
We're seeing far too many generational farms that have been in families for generations being ended and retired in a single generation to pay for one generation's retirement. And saying once that crop of houses, once those subdivisions get planted, there's no more food that will be grown on that land.
It's just disturbing to see because it's really permanent. It's like once those buildings are there, they're not leaving again. Like that is the last crop, is what they call it.
The first step is to protect farmland, which is disappearing at a huge rate. In Ontario, 173 football fields a day are basically paved over. But the next step is we need people to farm it. And there's a lot of interest in young people to do small organic farming. So our dream is to have an organic farm that young people can afford to lease and have multiple farmers on one farm so that they can learn from each other, share equipment, share experiences, and make it affordable to farm cooperatively.
One key game that developers play is they say, well, it's for employment land. So if it's to create jobs, often that's like the golden egg. So it gets an easier pass when they push for it to be converted from agricultural to, say, employment land. But once land is taken out of agricultural designation, even if it's designated into a golf course or into employment land, then it's much, much easier for developers to then convert it to residential.
The farmland issue is often put in this context of development and capitalism versus sustainability and environmentalism, and I think it's a false dynamic. I think we have to remember that agribusiness is the #1 industry in all of Canada, and if we forget that, one, we're not going to have food, but it's actually going to create a big hole in our economy.
Farmland is employment land. We create jobs, we feed people. It isn't wasted land, it's very, very valuable land. This area is known as the breadbasket. This is the very best farmland in Southern Ontario, in fact in Canada, and it's a jewel that we have to save.